think about maybe we're on stage wrapping up a panel, fireside chat with Holly. And so I've got 4 questions. So first question, what's one thing that you'd recommend leaders stop doing that can really keep staff from finding a sense of meaning and fulfillment in work? You stop doing this. You're just killing your staff's ability to create meaning and fulfillment in work.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you asked that because I think there's lots of things that we could probably stop doing. I would say being present, right, is how critical. So stop being not present. And what
Mm,
I mean by that is stop focusing on just yourself.
mm,
And whether it's you're having a communication with an employee and they're trying to tell you about an experience, and in your
mm.
mind, you're like, I've got a flight to catch or emails to return, and maybe
Yeah.
you check your phone. I think if you could stop and just take the pause with your staff and
Mm,
ask them how their day was, and stop asking them, hey, did we get that job done?
yeah.
Making it more
Mhm.
about them, I think, is something that we could really stop being distracted when you're trying to
Mm,
interact with your people.
yeah. Well, yeah, it's good advice. Next question. So if there's one thing that you'd recommend, now I know we talked about being present, is there one thing that you'd recommend leaders start doing to enable staff to develop a sense of meaning and fulfillment in their work?
Yeah, so I would say focusing on your goosebump moments, whatever those
Mm,
look right,
mm,
and really making that your rock per se, that is the
mm,
focus of your business.
yeah,
When you think of customer satisfaction and joy,
mm,
whatever your kind of rock is or goosebump moment, making that the focus of everything that when you're communicating. I think
mm,
that's the best way to go about that is when you start a meeting off, just have somebody share your goosebump story of the week.
mm,
Find the meaning of what you're doing, the
mm.
why, so to speak, and making everything that you do revolve around that. Does
Yeah.
it? That's got to be your first sense check as a business and making that the
Mm,
focus so that then your employees make that the focus.
yeah. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Every time I do these kind of conversations, I'm like, I'm going to start doing that. That's a pretty good piece of advice. And yeah, you know what, Holly? I live in a part of the world where they produce a lot of oil, and safety is super, super important. It's important everywhere, but it's like super important. And something that's very popular in my neck of the woods is called in a meeting, you have a safety moment, right? And we're going to have a safety moment. It's important. But my brain, I'm like, Holly's talking about like having meaning moments, to start meetings. And so our meeting's going to kick off with a little meeting moment or with our goosebumps moment.
Yeah.
And because, so I just, anyways, I think that's really, yeah, I've learned over the years that there was a mentor of mine, and he would say, of the many smart things, he would say, simplicity is complexity resolved. And he would say, just because something is simple doesn't mean it's silly. Sometimes something that's simple is there is just an enormous amount of complexity that's been compressed into one concept. And I think what you're describing in terms of starting a meeting to set the tone by having someone share a goosebumps moment, it sets the whole tone for the meeting. How do you be a rotten egg after someone tells a story that's so heart? There's so much heart in that story. I was thinking about being a stinker, but you know what? That's pretty good. That's
Maybe not
that's
now.
that's pretty good. That's a pretty good story. I got something in my eye, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next question: if you could encourage leaders in the industry to make a long-term investment in something that's going to pay dividends for years to come, to be able to create an environment that connects work to meaning, what would that investment be?
Yeah. I think obviously from a long term investment standpoint, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's important to really think about your culture as a brand
Mm,
and then ensure that you're training to that. So, what are
mm,
your training techniques? Do you train them on focusing on the meaning, or are
mm,
you training to focus on the task?
mm,
And can you intertwine meaning into the task?
mm,
Right. So, if part of one of the things they have to do is update the claim file, right? Push a button, stop a
mhm.
clock, whatever it is, because we all live in an SLA type
Totally.
worlds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where is the button for the meaning?
Yeah.
And I think it's important to just think how you can implement that, and then make sure that you can
Mm.
repeat that over and over again.
Yeah.
Because it's easy as you grow to get
Mhm.
too far removed from that, that you
Mhm.
forget that the person that was hired last week is
Mhm.
missing that kind of guidance and training. And so
Mhm.
make sure whether it's the know how training platform, that there's
Mhm.
meaning in the items that you're discussing. It's not push this
Mm.
button, cross this T, dot that I,
Mm.
but explaining in the midst of that why,
Mm.
right? Why do we do that? What's the
Yeah.
meaning that we're going to get from that?
Yeah. Yeah. That's really important. No, I think that's really important. And so let me bring us to a close here, Holly, with one last question. You're on stage, leaders in the industry, and the audience is super bought into what you're saying because this is very important. I think it's very timely. The research we've done has said, yeah, this is like golden advice. But if you could teach leaders one thing about attracting and retaining talent in this industry, what would it be?
So I'm going to steal this idea. I'm a great stealer of ideas. We have a franchise in Salt Lake City, Utah,
Mm.
and Ryan Fish
Mm.
presented at our conference a year ago.
Mm.
And he presented a concept that's not new. I think there's even a book about it. So it's not, he stole it from somebody, I guess I would say. And it's called
Yeah.
Choose Hard, right?
Mm.
And I think when I think of leaders is that we get to choose hard, right? You get to
Mm.
choose your hard every day, whether you want to choose the hard to eat healthy and work out, or you want to choose the hard that's being overweight,
Mm.
right? Choose hard to have a great marriage and have great communication and dedicate time and focus on a marriage, or choose hard by maybe going through a divorce. And I think in work, we get to do the exact same thing. It's not easy to show meaning day in and day out. It's not easy to focus on your employees and truly care and invest in them, invest in their training, invest in their education. It's hard. But the
Mm.
alternative of dealing with lack of retention and a lot of turnover is also hard.
Yeah.
So, I guess my one advice for fellow leaders would be pick what hard you want to do, because it's all hard. You just get to choose which hard you want. So if you want to create this amazing culture and you want a company that has long time, happy, satisfied employees, you're going to have to choose that hard. And it's
Mm.
not going to be easy, but it's doable. And so I just think about that as a leader every day. None of it's easy. So just choose your hard on what type of environment you want to create for your employees. And do you want to help restore their lives, the lives of your customers, and figure out how to choose that level of hard? And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Holly, you can't see them, but I have goosebumps.
Ah, I love that.